We continue now at the top of Daf Ayin Aleph in Meseches Zevachim. This is Zevachim Daf 79a. On the previous summit, the Gemara had a contradiction within Rabbi Yehuda, whether Rabbi Yehuda says the concept of roin by bittul, by nullification. Roin is a chumrah, it's a stringency by bittul, where we say even though something really should have been bittul, berov, it really should have been nullified in a majority. But let's say we would view roin, we would view it as something that's not the same min, not of the same type, and then it would be visible, let's say, within the mixture. So then we would be strict and we would say that it's not bittul, that it's not nullified. And the Gemara now answers the contradiction and says, Hadidei, Hadirabbe, it depends if it's Rabbi Yehuda himself, his own opinion, or his Rebbe's opinion was different than his own, and that answers the contradiction. And Rashi explains, Hadirabbe, Haditnan Le'el, that which we learned in the Mishnah earlier, Rowan Oso Ki'ilu Hu Yayin Edom, that we view it as if it's red wine, Dirabbehu, that's actually the opinion of his Rebbe, Demachmir Bebittel, who's strict when it comes to nullification, Kihechi Demachmir Bemin Vemino, just like he's strict, let's say you have two things of the same type that get mixed, he's strict over there, V'yamar Lo Batel Klal, he says it's not nullified at all, Umin B'She'eno Mino Nami, and so he's also strict, let's say it's not of the same type. The islay de bottle there in general we do say there's nullification. V'kaimale calls man shemare hamuat nikr barov, but we say if the way that it would be visible, if the minority element would be visible even within the majority, so then low bottle we say there it's not nullified. So just like we would say that machmir nami v'yamar, he's also strict and says tehechet demare and shavin, even let's say where they look the same. Kagon yayin lovan b'mayim, for example, let's say you have white wine and water, so there you're not going to be able to distinguish the white wine since they look the same, but we're strict there as well. Deroan osoki ilu adam, we view the white wine as if it's red wine. That's the idea of roin velosagile beruban. We say since it would have been visible if it was red wine, therefore majority is not enough, and it's not batel, it's not nullified. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda's Rebbe. As the Gemara now goes on and says, Detanya, as we learned in a Brisa, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Mishum Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Rabbi Gamliel, Ein dam mevatel dam, blood does not nullify blood. Ein rok mevatel rok, spit does not nullify spit. Ve'ein mei raglayim mevatlen mei raglayim, and urine does not nullify urine. And Rashi explains, Ein dam mevatel dam, that would be, let's say, eitzel zrika, let's say you're talking about zrika, throwing the blood, the application of the blood in the Beis HaMikdash, v'etzel kisoy, or let's say by the mitzvah of kisoy hadam, of covering the blood. Ve'ein rok hatar, let's say you have tahor rok, you have spit that's pure. Mevatel rok hazav, that's not going to nullify the rok of the zav, which is tameh. Vein mei raglayim tahorim, mevatlin mei raglayim shel zav, the urine that's pure is not going to nullify the mei raglayim of a zav. Umitami, it's going to be tameh. V'af al pisha rabos hataharos alatzmeos bekli. Again, even though you have majority, but these are situations where it's min b'mino, it's of the same type, and therefore we're strict, as Rashi just mentioned earlier. And the Gemara continues with another answer. Rava Amar, Rava says, B'delisha tochotar, in the case in Mikvos, which we brought in the previous Amud, we're talking about a pail, which the inside of it is tahor, the inside of it is pure, v'gabo tameh, but the outside of it is tameh, askinan, that's what we're dealing with, and that's why over there, d'midina sagi luhu b'choltehu, there, by the strict law, all you would need is a little bit of water to purify, and that's why we're lenient in this situation. And Rashi explains the answer. Rava Amar, Rava says, Liolam chad tana, it's all one tana. Ucherabe svirale, and really Rabbi Yehuda does hold like his Rebbe, meaning to say, in general, he's usually strict when it comes to nullification. He holds of roin. V'hadzakamar beruba sagin, when we said earlier, that was a case involving the purification of a vessel in a mikvah, and we said that if you have a majority, that's sufficient. We don't say roin. So there, b'deli shetocho tar, v'gabo tami. The case over there was, we're talking about a deli, we're talking about a pail or a bucket, which the inside was pure, it was only the outside that was tameh. Kagon shenitma gabo betumas mashkin derabanan, for example, the outside of it became tameh with tumas mashkin, tum of liquids, which is just derabanan. Tekaimalan, we've established in such a situation, tocho ogno ozna v'yad of tahorin, that again the inside and the various other elements are pure. Demidina sagile bechnisas maim lesocho koldu, in that situation, when you're immersing it in the waters of the mikvah purification, even if a little bit of water goes into it, that's enough that it's considered a tefillah to be mitayr, to purify such a vessel. Shetala tefillah l'svaso da'atocho ein tzarich tefillah, because really in that case, the inside doesn't even really need tefillah. And so therefore, since midina sagilu b'choldu, and the Gemara continues, v'rabbanan hu degazru b'hu, it's only the Rabbanan who say that you need a full immersion, because dil machayis alayu v'lo mevatale, for perhaps the owner might want to spare the mechatas. That was the case over there in terms of immersing it in the mikveh. There was some mechatas, there was water purification there that was going to be nullified, and maybe he won't want it, velo mevatale, he won't want it to be nullified, and so therefore they said that you have to immerse the entire thing, and so therefore since it was just a derabanan v'kevan de'ika ribuya, so once you already have a majority of the waters of the mikveh, so lo tzarech, you don't need anything further, and that will be mevatel, that will nullify the mechatos that are inside of the vessel. Rashi explains, v'rabbanan hu degazer sheyitveleinu yaf, it's the rabbanan who say that you have to do a full immersion of this vessel which contains mechatos. Di'amr tesagile betvilas gabo, because if you're going to say that it's enough to essentially just immerse the outside, so dil machayas alayu al mechatos lo yisarvu mehamikva l'socho v'yifsalu, maybe he's going to want to spare the mechatos, he won't want to ruin those mechatos, that it shouldn't get mixed up with the waters of the mikveh inside of it, v'yifsalu, and become disqualified. V'lo mat v'le l'svasakli, and then he's not going to do a proper immersion even for the outside part of the vessel. Lefikach gazru olav, that's why they made a decree, lahatvilo leposla, they said no, he has to do a full immersion, and that full immersion will disqualify the mechatos. V'kevan de'ikor ribuya, but since that's the only reason you're doing the full immersion, so once you have a majority, sulo tzarech, you don't need anything further, to hatvilas tocho chumra bi'almahu, because the very fact that you have to even immerse the inside is just a stringency, and that's why in that particular situation we say batal berov, we say it's nullified in majority. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rava says, Amor Rabbanan b'taima, when it comes to nullification, sometimes the Rabbanan follow taima, they follow taste. V'amar Rabbanan beruba, sometimes they follow majority. V'amar Rabbanan b'chazusa, and sometimes they follow appearance. And the Gemara continues and explains, Min b'she'eno mino, let's say you have two things that get mixed that are of different kinds, so then b'taima, then it goes by taste. It means to say if you can discern the taste, even if the item is a minority, but it's not going to be batal, it's not going to be nullified. Min b'mino beruba, let's say they're of the same kind, so then it is nullified in majority. And hechadika chazus, if you have a situation where the appearance, you can see the item even though it's a minority, so then b'mara, we go by that appearance and we say that it is not nullified. And Rashi explains, v'hechadika chazusa, let's say there's appearance, meaning mili delotali b'taima, let's say it's something that has nothing to do with taste. Ela b'chazusa, it has to do with appearance. Kagon lenyan tvilas mikvah b'chazusa, for example, like the case we just had, when you're immersing something in the mikvah, so then we go by chazusa, we go by appearance. And the Gemara continues, Upliga de Rebbe Lazar, and this argues on Rebbe Lazar, and Rashi explains, Upliga de Rebbe Lazar, Had Reish Lakish, this is Reish Lakish's comment earlier on Daf Ayin Chesamad Aleph, Damar Isurin Mevatlin Zeh. Reish Lakish said earlier that prohibitions, Isurin, are Mevatlin, they nullify one another, and so Rebbe Lazar argues on that. Yamar Rebbe Lazar, because Rebbe Lazar says, Kishem She'ein Mitzvos Mevatlos Zu Azu, just like mitzvos do not nullify one another, as we'll see in a moment, Kach Ein Isurin Mevatel and Zuesu, so too prohibitions, they are not mevatel, they do not nullify one another. And the Gemara continues, Man shamatale damar in mitzvos mevatlos zuesu, who's the one that says that mitzvos do not nullify one another? Hillel, he that refers to Hillel. The Tanya, as we learned in a brayso, Amru olav al Hillel hazak, and they said about Hillel the elder, shaya korchan bevasachas, that he would wrap them all together. This is talking about the wrapping of the Pesach, matzah, and moror. He would wrap them together, v'yochlan, and eat them, mishum shenemar, because it says in the pasuk, al matzos umororim yochlu, you eat it with matzah and moror. And Rashi explains, Keshem shem mitzvahs ein mevatelos azu asu kedam lekamon. We're about to say that mitzvahs are not mevatel one another. Hillel korech Pesach matzah umorah bevasachas. Hillel would wrap Pesach matzah and morah all together. And the point is, v'lo asi tam morah, the taste of the morah does not come along. Umevatel leila tam matzah, that taste of the morah does not nullify the taste of the matzah. Again, that's the idea that the mitzvahs are not mevatel one another. And we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Ayin Tes Amud Beis.